I was kicked out of my house at 18. Now that I've inherited millions from my grandfather, my parents came back acting like nothing happened, demanding all the money. Before continuing the story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you won't miss more stories, and leave your like on the video. I sat in the leather chair, my hands gripping the armrests so tight my knuckles turned white. The lawyer's office smelled like old books and expensive wood polish. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat and adjusted his reading glasses. The testament of my grandfather spread across his mahogany desk. I hadn't expected anyone else to be here. When the secretary called last week saying I needed to come in for the reading of Grandpa Joe's will, I assumed it would just be me. After all, I was the only one who visited him during those last 2 years. The only one who sat by his hospital bed reading him the sports section. But there they were. My mother perched on the edge of her seat, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, probably bought specifically for this occasion. My father stood by the window, hands in his pockets, that same stern expression he always wore. And my brother, scrolling through his phone like he had somewhere better to be. 9 years. It had been 9 years since they kicked me out. My mother caught my eye and smiled. It was the kind of smile you'd give a stranger. Polite, empty, meaningless. "Sweetheart," she said, and the word felt like broken glass in my ears. "You look so grown up. We've missed you." I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say to that? That I'd missed sleeping in my car that first winter? That I'd missed eating ramen noodles for 3 months straight because I couldn't afford anything else? Mr. Henderson began reading. I tried to focus on his words, but my mind kept wandering back to that day when I was 18. The day my father told me I was a disappointment. The day my mother packed my things in garbage bags. The day my brother watched from his bedroom window as I drove away, not even bothering to wave goodbye. To my granddaughter, Mr. Henderson's voice cut through my thoughts. I leave the sum of $3,500,000 along with my investment portfolio and the property on Maple Street. The room went silent. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My mother's smile faltered. My father turned from the window, his face unreadable. My brother finally looked up from his phone. "There must be some mistake," my father said, his voice tight and controlled. "What about the rest of the family?" Mr. Henderson looked at him over his glasses. "There is no mistake. Mr. Joseph Carter was very clear about his wishes. He also left specific instructions that I am to handle all financial matters directly with his granddaughter. No one else has any claim to this inheritance." I watched my mother's face transform. The polite smile melted away, replaced by something harder, more calculating. She reached over and touched my arm, and I flinched. "Of course, honey. This is wonderful news. Your grandfather always had such faith in you, but this is a lot of money for someone your age. Your father and I would be happy to help you manage it. We have experience with these things." Experience. The word almost made me laugh. The last time they'd helped me with anything, I was 17, and they'd promised to co-sign for my college loans. Then they changed their minds 2 weeks before the semester started, saying they needed to focus their resources on my brother's education instead. He was getting his MBA. I was working at a diner. "That won't be necessary," I heard myself say. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. My brother finally spoke up. "Come on. Don't be stupid about this. Mom's right. You don't know anything about investments or taxes. You'll blow through it in a year." The same brother who got a new car for his 16th birthday while I took the bus. The same brother who got a trip to Europe after high school, while I got a suitcase and directions to the nearest homeless shelter. Mr. Henderson closed the file. "The estate is settled. I'll be in touch within the week to begin the transfer process." He looked directly at me. "Your grandfather also left you a letter. I'll have my assistant bring it." As we filed out of the office, my mother linked her arm through mine like we were old friends. "We should all have dinner tonight. There's so much to catch up on. Your father has some excellent investment advisors we could introduce you to." I pulled my arm away. "I need to think." "Of course, sweetheart. Take all the time you need." That smile again. "We're just so glad to have you back in our lives. Family is everything, isn't it?" I walked to my car, a used Toyota I'd bought 3 years ago after saving every spare dollar, and sat in the driver's seat with the door locked. Through the windshield, I could see them standing in a tight circle in the parking lot. My mother was gesturing animatedly. My father had his phone out. My brother was shaking his head. They were planning something. I could feel it in my bones, the same way I'd felt it 9 years ago when I sensed the storm coming but couldn't do anything to stop it. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother. "We need to talk. This doesn't have to be complicated." I deleted it without responding and drove away, watching them disappear in my rearview mirror. The envelope from Mr. Henderson sat on my passenger seat, the letter from Grandpa Joe. I wasn't ready to open it yet. 9 years ago, they'd thrown me away like I was nothing. Now, suddenly, I was family again. The irony would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the envelope sitting on my kitchen counter, Grandpa Joe's handwriting on the front. But my mind kept drifting further back, to memories I'd spent years trying to bury. I was 7 when I first noticed it. My brother got the bigger bedroom. I got the converted storage room. When I asked why, my mother said he needed more space. He was older. He was more important. At 10, I made the honor roll. My parents took us out to dinner to celebrate my brother's acceptance into the gifted program. My report card sat in my backpack, unseen. When I tried to show it to my father, he patted my head and turned back to discussing my brother's future. By 13, I'd stopped trying. My brother got a new laptop for his birthday. I got a card with $20. He got driving lessons from our father. I taught myself using YouTube videos in the school parking lot. The day I turned 18 started normal enough. I came downstairs for breakfast. My mother was at the kitchen table. My father was reading the newspaper. My brother was eating cereal, dressed in the designer clothes they'd bought him for college. "We need to talk," my father said without looking up. I remember my stomach dropping. I'd learned to recognize that tone. "You're an adult now," he continued. "It's time you learn to stand on your own feet. Your brother needed our support to reach his potential. You've always been more independent." My mother nodded along, not meeting my eyes. "We've done our duty. 18 years. But we can't keep supporting you when your brother still has graduate school ahead." "What are you saying?" "You need to move out," my father said. "We've packed your things. There are boxes in the garage. Not suitcases. Boxes." My brother kept eating his cereal, the spoon scraping against the bowl. "But I'm still in high school," I said. "I graduate in 2 months." "You can finish from wherever you end up," my mother said, her back to me. "You're resourceful." I looked at my brother, waiting for him to say something, anything. He'd always been quiet, but we were siblings. Surely he'd see how wrong this was. He finally looked up. "It's probably for the best. You guys never really got along anyway." That hurt worse than anything my parents had said. I went to the garage. 8 cardboard boxes, my entire life packed away. My clothes, my books, my laptop, the one I'd bought myself by working at the grocery store. Nothing they'd given me. I loaded the boxes into my Honda. My mother watched from the kitchen window. My father had already left. My brother's door was closed. I sat in the driver's seat, hands shaking, trying to figure out where to go. I had $300 in my bank account. No friends close enough to take me in. No other family except Grandpa Joe. I drove to his house, the tears finally coming. He opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. What did they do? I told him everything. His jaw got tighter with each word. When I finished, he made me tea and sat across from me. "You can stay here," he said. "As long as you need. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden. You're my granddaughter." He squeezed my hand. "And you're worth 10 of your brother. Always have been." I stayed with Grandpa Joe for 3 months. He helped me finish high school, drove me to graduation when my parents didn't show. He co-signed for my first apartment, helped me apply for financial aid, encouraged me when I wanted to give up. "They'll regret this," he told me once. Maybe not today, maybe not for years, but they will. And when they do, remember, you didn't need them to succeed. You did this yourself. I moved out when I got a job at a call center. Grandpa Joe visited my apartment, brought me a framed photo of us at my graduation. It still hung in my living room. I visited him every week until he got sick. Then I visited every day. I was there when he died, holding his hand, telling him about my promotion. He smiled and said he was proud of me. Those were his last words. My parents didn't come to the funeral. My brother sent flowers with a generic card. Now at 3 in the morning, I finally opened the envelope. Grandpa Joe's handwriting was shaky but clear. "My dear girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I can't be there to see what comes next, but I know you're strong enough to handle it. Your parents will come back. They'll pretend the past never happened. They'll want what I've left you. Don't let them take it. You earned this, not by being born into the family, but by being the only one who gave a damn. You're going to be fine. Better than fine. You're going to be extraordinary. Love, Grandpa Joe." I read it 3 times, my vision blurring. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. My phone buzzed. Another text from my brother. Seriously, we need to talk. Call me. I turned off my phone and went to bed. Tomorrow I'd start dealing with this. Tonight I just wanted to remember what it felt like to be loved unconditionally by the one person who never gave up on me. The calls started the next morning. 3 missed calls from my mother, 5 texts from my brother, 2 voicemails from my father. I deleted them all without listening. At work, I tried to focus, but my phone kept buzzing. Finally, I stepped outside to take my brother's call. Finally, he said. I've been trying to reach you all morning. I've been busy. Look, I know things were complicated, but that's in the past. We're family. The inheritance, $3.5 million. You're going to need help managing it. Dad knows some really good financial advisors. I leaned against the brick wall. I don't need help. Don't be stubborn. You've never dealt with this kind of money. If you screw this up, I'll handle it myself. Are you seriously still mad about what happened when you were 18? That was 9 years ago. People change. Do they? Yes. Mom feels terrible. She's been saying so all week. Interesting, considering she hasn't said a word to me directly. His voice got sharper. Grandpa Joe would want us to work together. He wouldn't want you pushing the family away. That made me laugh. You didn't even go to his funeral. I sent flowers. How generous. Look, I'm trying here. The least you could do is not be a bitch about it. I hung up. That evening, I came home to find my brother sitting on the steps outside my apartment building. How did you know where I live? Mom still has your address from an old Christmas card. I tried to move past him. He blocked my path. Not aggressively, but firmly. 5 minutes. I crossed my arms. Talk. This money could change all our lives. Mom and Dad don't have much saved for retirement. I've got student loans. We could help each other. Help each other? Or help yourselves? Why does it have to be like that? We're family. You keep saying that word like it means something. His jaw tightened. I know you're angry, but holding on to that anger isn't going to help anyone. Grandpa Joe would want you to use this to bring the family back together. He left me that money because I was the only one who cared about him. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you visited him before he got sick? He looked away. I was busy with work. I was busy too. I still made time. So what? You want me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry. I should have been there more. But we can't change the past. We can only move forward. I unlocked my building door. I need to think. Alone. Wait. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Mom wanted me to give you this. It's from Dad. A proposal for how we could structure things. I took the envelope but didn't open it. I'll look at it. That's all we're asking. Just consider it. Inside my apartment, I stared at the envelope. Part of me wanted to throw it away. But I opened it. The proposal was typed, professional looking. It outlined a plan where I would put the inheritance into a family trust. My father would manage investments. My mother would handle charitable giving. My brother would oversee tax planning. I would receive a monthly allowance. An allowance. From my own money. The document used words like collective benefit and family unity. It was dated 3 days after Grandpa Joe's funeral. They'd been planning this before they knew what was in the will. My phone rang. My mother. Against my better judgment, I answered. Sweetheart, she said, false warmth in her voice. Your brother said he gave you our proposal. Your father spent days working on it. I haven't decided anything. Of course not. Take your time. But we'd love to have you over for dinner this weekend. Just family. We could talk about everything. I'm busy this weekend. Next weekend, then. We're flexible. We just miss you so much. 9 years, I thought. 9 years since you threw me out. I'll think about it. That's all we ask. Oh, and honey? Mr. Henderson mentioned you'd be coming in to sign papers next week. Your father thought he might come with you, just to make sure everything is in order. I can handle it myself. Pause. Of course you can. We just want to support you. That's what family does. After I hung up, I sat in the darkness. The proposal sat on my coffee table with its neat bullet points and professional language. They'd thought of everything, except asking what I wanted. I called Mr. Henderson's office and left a message asking if he could recommend a financial advisor, someone with no connection to my family. Then I threw my parents' proposal in the trash. 2 weeks later, Mr. Henderson called me at work. His voice was tight but professional. We have a situation. Can you come to my office this afternoon? My stomach dropped. What kind of situation? I'd rather discuss it in person. 3 o'clock? I left work early. The whole drive, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Mr. Henderson had documents spread across his desk. Please, sit down. What happened? Yesterday, someone attempted to access your grandfather's estate accounts. They presented themselves as your legal representative, claiming power of attorney. The room tilted. What? The bank flagged it immediately. Your grandfather's will requires your direct signature in person with ID. No exceptions. Who was it? Your father. He had what appeared to be a notarized document claiming you'd granted him power of attorney due to mental incapacity and inexperience. I felt sick. I never signed anything. I know. The notary stamp was fake. We've reported it to the authorities. He paused. There's more. This morning, we received a letter from an attorney representing your parents. They're claiming your grandfather was unduly influenced. They're contesting the will. My father had tried to steal from me. And when that failed, they were taking a different approach. What do I do? Get your own attorney. Document everything, every call, text, interaction, and don't engage with them directly. Everything goes through lawyers now. He slid a business card across the desk. Patricia Chen, estate litigation attorney. How long will this take? Months, probably. Your grandfather anticipated this, which is why he was so careful with documentation. But they're going to make it difficult. I left his office numb. In my car, I checked my phone. 17 missed calls from my family. I'd blocked their numbers, but they'd started using different phones. An email from my brother. I don't know what Henderson told you, but you need to hear our side. Dad was only trying to help. We're family. We don't need lawyers between us. I deleted it. That night, I called Patricia Chen and scheduled an appointment. The next morning, my car wouldn't start. Dead battery. When the mechanic looked, he frowned. Weird. Your battery cables are loose. Really loose. Almost like someone disconnected them partway. My brother had been here 2 weeks ago. He'd known which car was mine. At Patricia Chen's office, I told her everything. She took notes, her expression neutral. This is a clear pattern of harassment and attempted fraud, she said. The fake power of attorney alone is serious. Combined with the will contest and escalating behavior, we have options. What kind of options? Restraining order, criminal charges for fraud, motion to dismiss their will contest as frivolous and demand they pay your legal fees. Will that work? The evidence is overwhelmingly in your favor. Your grandfather left an incredible paper trail. Medical records, witness statements, security footage, written declarations. Unless they have evidence we don't know about, this won't last long. She leaned forward. But I need you prepared. This will get ugly. They'll say terrible things about you in legal documents. Can you handle that? I thought about sleeping in my car at 18, working double shifts while finishing my degree online, sitting by Grandpa Joe's hospital bed while my parents pretended I didn't exist. Yes, I said. I can handle it. Good. Let's get to work. Patricia filed our responses. The restraining order included every text, voicemail, unwanted visit. The motion to dismiss included Mr. Henderson's documentation and expert testimony. My parents' lawyer fired back with a document claiming I'd manipulated an elderly man, isolated him from family, poisoned him against his children. They said Grandpa Joe had been depressed and vulnerable, easy prey. Reading it made me physically ill. Patricia said not to take it personally, legal strategy, not truth, but it felt personal. Then came subpoenas, my bank records, employment history, medical records. They were fishing for anything to use against me. Patricia assured me it was normal. They won't find anything because there's nothing to find. She was right. My records showed a woman who worked hard, paid bills, lived responsibly, but the invasion felt violating. My mother left one final voicemail before the restraining order took effect. Her voice was ice. You're making a terrible mistake. We're your family. When this is over and you have nothing, don't come crawling back to us. I saved the recording and sent it to Patricia. Perfect, she said. This shows they know they're going to lose. I wanted to believe her, but lying in bed at night, I couldn't shake the feeling that somehow they'd find a way to win. They always did. The whispers started at the grocery store. I noticed people staring, then quickly looking away. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. Then I heard fragments of conversations that stopped when I got close. My coworker texted me, "Hey, did you see the neighborhood Facebook group? There are some posts about you." I checked. Anonymous accounts claiming I'd abandoned my family for years, only to swoop in when my grandfather was dying. Posts calling me a gold digger, a manipulator. Comments from people I'd never met, calling me greedy and heartless. Someone had posted my photo with the caption, "This woman conned an elderly man out of millions. Shame on her." Within days, the damage spread everywhere. The woman at my usual coffee shop stopped making small talk. My gym membership was mysteriously under review. Someone left a note on my car. Karma is coming for you. At work, colleagues who used to chat with me in the break room now made excuses to leave when I entered. My boss pulled me aside. Uncomfortable. We've received some concerning emails about you. I don't believe them, but HR needs to investigate. It's my family, I said. They're trying to destroy my reputation because I won't give them the inheritance. I understand, just keep your head down until this blows over. But it didn't blow over. It got worse. Someone posted a 1-star review on my company's website, claiming I'd provided terrible service and stolen client information. It was completely false, but it was there for everyone to see. My landlord called. I've had complaints from other tenants. Nothing specific, just they're uncomfortable. Is there something going on? My car was keyed again, this time across the hood. Thief. I stopped going to my usual places. The grocery store, the coffee shop, the gym. Every public space felt hostile. People who'd smiled at me for years now looked at me with suspicion or disgust. My phone rang constantly. Blocked numbers, unknown callers. When I answered, it was either silence or whispered insults. You should be ashamed. He trusted you. You're disgusting. I changed my number. Within 2 days, the calls started again. The isolation was crushing. I'd spent 9 years building a life in this community. I had work friends, gym acquaintances, familiar faces at the coffee shop. Not close relationships, but connections. People who knew my name, who smiled when they saw me. Now I had nothing. I was a pariah in my own neighborhood. Patricia documented everything. The posts, the vandalism, the harassment, but it didn't stop. My parents had poisoned the well so thoroughly that people believed them without question. The breaking point came when I ran into someone from Grandpa Joe's church in the parking lot. I'd always liked her. She'd been kind to me at the funeral. How are you? I asked, genuinely hoping for a normal interaction. She looked at me with cold eyes. I know what you did. Your grandfather would be ashamed. She walked away, leaving me standing there, gutted. That night, I sat in my apartment with all the lights off, curtains closed. The walls felt like they were closing in. Every sound made me jump. Was it another vandal? Another harassing call? I thought about Grandpa Joe's letter, about being strong. But I didn't feel strong. I felt crushed under the weight of lies I couldn't fight fast enough. My phone buzzed. An email from my mother, from a new address I hadn't blocked yet. You've brought this on yourself. All you had to do was share. Instead, you chose greed over family. Now you see what it costs to stand alone. It's not too late to fix this. Call me. I deleted it, but the words stuck. Was she right? Had I brought this on myself by refusing to compromise? No. I caught myself spiraling. That's what they wanted, for me to doubt myself, to question my own worth. I pulled out Grandpa Joe's letter and read it again, my vision blurring with tears. Don't let them take it. You earned this. But it was hard to remember why any of this mattered when I felt so completely alone, when my entire world had turned against me based on lies. I looked at my phone, at all the blocked numbers, the deleted messages, the harassment that wouldn't stop. Then I looked at my apartment, my safe space that no longer felt safe. For the first time since this started, I wondered if I could actually survive this. If maybe they'd finally found a way to break me. I fell asleep on the couch, too exhausted to move, Grandpa Joe's letter still clutched in my hand. I woke up on the couch, neck stiff, head pounding. Grandpa Joe's letter had fallen to the floor. As I picked it up, I noticed another envelope in the box of his things. This one was older, yellowed. My name in Grandpa Joe's younger handwriting. The letter was dated 8 years ago. My dear girl, I'm writing this because I know what your parents are capable of. When I'm gone, they'll come for what I leave you. They'll try to manipulate you, guilt you, break you down. But I know something they don't. You're stronger than all of them combined. You survived being thrown away at 18. You built a life with nothing. So when things get dark, remember, you didn't need them then. You don't need them now. I've made sure you have everything you need to fight back. The documentation, the legal protections, the money. But the real weapon is inside you. You've already survived the worst thing they could do. Rejection by the people who should have loved you most. Everything else is just noise. Trust yourself. Trust the plan I've put in place. I'm proud of you. Always have been. Always will be. Love, Grandpa Joe. I read it 3 times. He'd known. Years ago, he'd known exactly what would happen. Something inside me shifted. The crushing weight lifted, replaced by determination. I called Patricia. Tell me about the other protections in the will. You've been reading something. Another letter from Grandpa Joe. He said he had a plan. He did. The will has clauses that activate under conditions. If your parents are found guilty of fraud or harassment, they're automatically barred from contesting the will, permanently. If they continue defamation after being warned, they're liable for triple damages. If they attempt illegal access to funds, they forfeit any potential claim forever. Your grandfather built legal traps. Each one they trigger makes their position worse. Can we use them? We have enough evidence. The fake power of attorney triggered the first trap. The harassment and defamation triggered the second. We can file now. Then let's do it. Over the next days, I stopped hiding. I went back to my coffee shop. When the barista gave me a cold look, I met her eyes and ordered calmly. I went to the gym, the grocery store, the park. People stared. People whispered. But I didn't run. I also started building an active case. Screenshots of every false post with timestamps, recordings of threatening calls transcribed, photos of vandalism with police reports, witness statements from everyone approached by my family. The woman from Grandpa Joe's church called. Your mother approached me 3 weeks ago. She asked me to post negative things about you online, offered to pay me $500. I said no, but I know 4 others who said yes. Would you testify to that? Yes. I'm sorry I was cold before. Thank you for telling me now. One by one, the truth emerged. The coffee shop owner admitted my father offered him money to refuse my business. My landlord confessed he'd received threatening calls. The person who posted the fake review, paid by my brother. The campaign had been funded, coordinated, systematic. Patricia filed our countersuit. Defamation with documented damages, criminal harassment with coordination evidence, attempted fraud, civil conspiracy. We asked for compensatory damages, punitive damages, and a permanent restraining order. We invoked every protective clause in Grandpa Joe's will. My parents' lawyer tried to dismiss it as a family dispute. Patricia presented our evidence. Hours of documentation, 37 witnesses, financial records showing payments to harassers, phone records proving coordination. The judge reviewed it in silence for 10 minutes. Then she looked up. This goes beyond a family dispute. This is coordinated harassment and defamation. I'm ordering a full evidentiary hearing, and I'm granting a preliminary restraining order effective immediately. My parents' lawyer looked stunned. Walking out, Patricia was smiling. They just realized they're in real trouble. That night, I felt clear, focused. I understood what Grandpa Joe had done. He hadn't just protected my inheritance. He'd given me tools to fight people who'd spent my life making me feel powerless. Every clause in the will, every document prepared, every legal protection established, all designed to turn their tactics against them. I looked at both letters, now taped to my refrigerator. Tomorrow we'd prepare for the hearing, but tonight, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. Because I finally understood. I wasn't fighting alone. Grandpa Joe was still protecting me, still believing in me, and he'd made sure I had everything I needed to win. With Patricia's help, I hired a financial advisor, someone Mr. Henderson recommended who had no connection to my family. Her name was Joan, a woman in her 50s, who'd built her career managing inheritances and trusts. First rule, she said at our first meeting, don't touch the principal for at least 6 months. Let's set up a structure that protects you. We created a diversified investment portfolio. Nothing flashy, nothing risky. Index funds, bonds, some real estate investments, the kind of boring, steady growth that would ensure I'd never worry about money again. You could live comfortably on the interest alone, Joan said, without ever touching the principal. That felt surreal. 9 years ago, I was sleeping in my car. Now I had financial security for life, but I didn't want to just sit on the money. I wanted to build something. I started documenting everything my family did, not just for the legal case, but methodically. I created a detailed timeline, every call, every text, every act of vandalism, every lie they spread. I saved screenshots, made backups, organized everything in folders. Patricia was impressed. This is better documentation than most lawyers provide. At work, after HR cleared me, I asked for more responsibility. My boss, who felt guilty about the investigation, was happy to oblige. I took on a major project, streamlining our supply chain logistics. It was complex, demanding work that required my full attention. Exactly what I needed. The project kept me busy for weeks. I worked late, dove into problems, proved myself all over again. When I presented the final proposal, it would save the company nearly $500,000 annually. My boss approved it immediately. I'm recommending you for senior coordinator. You've earned it. The promotion came with a significant raise. Not that I needed the money anymore, but it felt good to earn it on my own merit. I also started looking for a new place to live, not because my family was forcing me out, but because I chose to. I wanted something that was entirely mine, untainted by their shadow. I found a small house in a different neighborhood, 2 bedrooms, a yard, a garage, nothing fancy, but it had good bones. I paid cash. The realtor's eyes widened when I said I didn't need a mortgage. That's unusual for someone your age. I got lucky, I said simply. Moving day felt like shedding an old skin. The apartment had been my sanctuary, but it had also been the place where I'd felt most vulnerable during the harassment. This house was a fresh start. I hired movers, wanting to do this right. As they loaded boxes, I found myself smiling. This was my choice, my life, built with my own hands and Grandpa Joe's love. The first night in the new house, I hung Grandpa Joe's photo in the living room, the one from my high school graduation. Then I hung both his letters in my office, framed and protected. This room would be my command center, where I'd manage my money, build my future, and coordinate my defense against my family's legal attacks. Because they weren't giving up. Despite our countersuit, despite the evidence mounting against them, they kept pushing. Their lawyer filed motion after motion, each one more desperate than the last. But now I was ready for them. I created spreadsheets tracking every aspect of my finances. Not because I was paranoid, but because I wanted to prove, to myself and to any judge, that I was handling this responsibly. Every dollar accounted for, every investment justified, every expense reasonable. At night, instead of hiding in the dark, I planned. Joan helped me set up a charitable fund in Grandpa Joe's name. We'd support causes he cared about: veterans services, education scholarships, youth programs. This will also help your case, Joan said. It shows you're honoring his legacy, not just hoarding money. I didn't care about how it looked. I cared that Grandpa Joe's money would keep doing good after he was gone. My coworkers noticed the change in me. I was calmer, more focused. The harassment had been terrible, but I'd come through it stronger. Slowly, carefully, I was rebuilding. Not just my reputation, but my entire life. Brick by brick, choice by choice. The house became a home. I planted flowers in the yard. I bought furniture that I actually liked, not just what I could afford. I created a space that reflected who I was. And every morning I woke up in my own house, looked at Grandpa Joe's photo, and reminded myself, I'd earned this. Every bit of it. Not because I'd inherited money, but because I'd survived. I'd refused to break. I'd kept going when it would have been easier to give up. The inheritance was just money. The real wealth was the strength I'd built over 9 years of standing on my own. And that was something my family could never take away. 3 months after filing our countersuit, I attended a charity event in Grandpa Joe's name. The scholarship fund we'd created was awarding its first grants. I wanted to be there. An older man approached me. He had kind eyes and a firm handshake. You probably don't remember me. I'm Walter Chen. I was your grandfather's attorney before he hired Mr. Henderson. I retired 5 years ago. I'm sorry, we haven't met. We haven't, but your grandfather talked about you constantly. There's something you should know. He pulled me aside. Your grandfather came to me 8 years ago. He wanted to create an inheritance structure that would protect you from your family. We spent months planning it, anticipating every move they might make. You helped him build the traps. Walter smiled. Yes, but there's more. Your grandfather left something else with me, a notebook, detailed strategies for various scenarios. He wanted you to have it, but only after you'd started fighting back on your own. Why wait? Because he wanted you to find your own strength first. Walter handed me a leather-bound notebook. He said you'd know when you needed this. That night, I opened it. Grandpa Joe's handwriting filled every page. It wasn't just legal strategies. It was a playbook. Scenario 1. They try to claim undue influence. Response. Medical records showing my mental competency. Witness statements. Documented history of their neglect. Scenario 2. They attempt to access funds illegally. Response. Report immediately. Press criminal charges. Use as evidence of character. Scenario 3. They launch a smear campaign. Response. Document everything. Let them expose their own cruelty. Use it in court. Page after page. He'd thought of everything, and he'd been right about all of it. The last section was titled, Your Allies. Names and contact information for people Grandpa Joe trusted. Financial advisors, attorneys, friends who'd promised to help me if needed. One name jumped out. Thomas Brennan, retired family court judge. A note. Tom saw how your parents treated you at family gatherings. He'll testify if needed. I called. A man answered, voice warm. I've been waiting for your call. Your grandfather asked me years ago if I'd help you when the time came. I said yes without hesitation. You barely know me. I know enough. I saw your parents at your grandfather's 70th birthday party. I watched them ignore you while fawning over your brother. I watched your grandfather's face when he looked at you versus them. That told me everything. Would you really testify? Absolutely. I've already prepared a statement about what I observed. Your grandfather was of sound mind, deeply disappointed in his son and daughter-in-law, and completely clear about his intentions. I'll say all of that under oath. I kept reading the notebook. Grandpa Joe had compiled evidence I didn't know existed. Photos of family gatherings where I was clearly excluded. Emails where my parents asked him for money while refusing to mention me. Records of every time he'd tried to convince them to treat me better. He'd documented their cruelty for years, knowing someday I'd need proof. The final page was a letter. If you're reading this, you've started fighting back. I'm proud of you. I knew you would. This notebook is just insurance. You don't need it to win. You've already won by becoming someone they could never break. But use it anyway. Make them face what they've done, not for revenge, but for justice. And remember, I'm with you every step of the way. Love, Grandpa Joe. I sat there crying, holding this gift. He'd spent years preparing for this battle. Years documenting, planning, building alliances. All to protect me. The next morning, I brought the notebook to Patricia. Her eyes widened as she flipped through it. This is incredible. More evidence than we could have hoped for. Witnesses I didn't know existed. Documentation going back over a decade. She looked up. Your grandfather was meticulous. He knew what they'd do. More than that, he understood exactly how to counter every move. This changes everything. We spent the next week incorporating the new evidence, reaching out to the people Grandpa Joe had listed, organizing photographs and documents chronologically. Each piece painted a clearer picture. My parents had been emotionally abusive for years. They'd gaslit me, excluded me, treated me as less than. And Grandpa Joe had watched it all, documenting their cruelty, waiting for the day I'd need proof. Walter called to check in. How's the notebook? It's perfect. It's everything. Your grandfather spent our last meeting together adding to it. He was in the hospital, weak but determined. He said, Walter, I need to make sure she has ammunition. They're going to come at her with everything. She needs to be ready. That night, I sat in my house, surrounded by evidence of Grandpa Joe's love. The letters, the notebook, the carefully constructed legal protections, the network of people he'd recruited to help me. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. He'd been planning this for years, building an army to protect me, creating a fortress around my future. And now I had everything I needed to finish this fight. The petition arrived on a Tuesday morning. Patricia called me, her voice tight. They've filed for guardianship. They're claiming you're mentally incompetent to manage the inheritance. I felt punched. What? It's a last-ditch effort. They're saying you show signs of mental instability, make irrational financial decisions, need someone to manage your affairs. They want legal control over you and the money. I'm 27. I have a job. I own a house. They're desperate. This is them going all in. They've hired a psychiatrist willing to say you exhibit concerning behavior based on their descriptions. No actual examination. That's insane. It is. But we take it seriously. The hearing is in 3 weeks. My parents were trying to have me declared incompetent. They wanted to take away my autonomy, my rights, not just the money, me. Over the next weeks, we assembled our case. My employer provided records showing excellent job performance, my promotion, my leadership. Joan documented my financial management, every investment sound, every decision reasonable. My doctor provided records showing I was healthy. We gathered character witnesses, co-workers, neighbors, the woman from Grandpa Joe's church, and we prepared to use Grandpa Joe's notebook. Thomas Brennan, the retired judge, was willing to testify about what he'd observed at family gatherings, about my parents' treatment of me. I'll tell the truth, he said, that your grandfather worried about this exact scenario. The day arrived. I dressed professionally. The courtroom was small. My parents sat on one side with their lawyer. My mother wouldn't look at me. My father stared straight ahead. Judge Morrison entered, an older woman with sharp eyes. My parents' lawyer presented their case. My father testified I'd become obsessed with the inheritance, cut off family without reason, made enemies in the community. My mother cried on the stand about how worried she was. My brother claimed I'd threatened him, that I was unstable. Their psychiatrist, who'd never met me, testified that based on descriptions, I exhibited signs of paranoid personality disorder. Then our turn. Joan presented detailed financial records. This is textbook financial management. Conservative, intelligent, well-planned. Nothing irrational here. My boss testified about my work performance. She's one of our best employees. My doctor testified about my health. No indication of mental illness or instability. Then Thomas Brennan. I've known the family for 15 years. I attended family gatherings. The parents consistently favored the son. They ignored her accomplishments, dismissed her, treated her as an afterthought. My parents' lawyer objected. This is irrelevant. It's absolutely relevant, Patricia said. It establishes motive. Judge Morrison nodded. I'll allow it. The grandfather confided in me about his concerns. Brennan continued. He worried his son and daughter-in-law would try to manipulate his granddaughter after his death. He specifically mentioned they might claim incompetence if other methods failed. He said, they'll do anything for that money, even try to have her declared unfit. The courtroom went silent. Patricia presented Grandpa Joe's notebook, the scenarios, the predictions, the evidence of years of emotional abuse. Your Honor, this isn't about mental health. This is about money. The petitioners have tried fraud, harassment, defamation, and now this. Each attempt predicted and documented. This is a pattern of abusive behavior. Finally, I testified. Patricia asked me questions about my life, my job, my finances. I answered clearly, calmly. Then, why do you think your parents filed this petition? Because every other method to get the inheritance has failed. The will is ironclad. Their fraud was caught. Their harassment was documented. They're desperate. They don't think I'm incompetent. They want control of the money. My parents' lawyer cross-examined, trying to rattle me, suggesting I was paranoid. Is it paranoia when you have proof? I asked. When there are witnesses, recordings, when your own parents admit they coordinated a campaign against you? He had no answer. Judge Morrison called a recess. We waited outside for hours. Finally, we were called back. Judge Morrison looked at my parents. I've reviewed all the evidence. I'm denying this petition in its entirety. My mother gasped. Furthermore, I'm appalled by what I've seen. This is not good faith concern about mental health. This is a calculated attempt to seize assets to which you have no legal claim. The evidence shows harassment, fraud, and emotional abuse. I'm making the restraining order permanent. You are barred from any contact with your daughter. Any violation will result in immediate arrest, and I'm awarding attorney's fees. You will pay for her legal costs. She looked at me. You're clearly competent. This case should never have been filed. We walked out into sunshine. Patricia was grinning. That's what we call a complete victory. I felt lighter than I had in months. They'd played their final card, and they'd lost. The final hearing for our countersuit came 6 weeks later. This time, we were on offense. The courtroom was packed. Patricia had made sure the press was there. Local reporters following the story. Community members who'd seen the truth emerge. My parents arrived looking exhausted. My mother's makeup couldn't hide the dark circles. My father had aged 10 years. My brother kept his head down. Judge Morrison presided again. Patricia stood. Your Honor, we're here to address a coordinated campaign of harassment, defamation, and fraud perpetrated by the petitioners against their own daughter. She presented everything. The timeline. Screenshots of false posts traced to computers accessed by my family. Financial records showing payments to harassers. Recordings of threatening calls. Witness statements. The investigators' footage showing my brother near my car before vandalism. Security showing my mother entering the laundry room before it flooded. The fake power of attorney. Medical records proving Grandpa Joe's sound mind. Witness statements from his doctors, attorney, friends, and Grandpa Joe's notebook, predicting everything they'd done. My parents' lawyer tried to argue it was a misunderstanding. Family conflict blown out of proportion. Patricia destroyed that argument. A misunderstanding doesn't involve fake notary stamps. Family conflict doesn't include paying people to vandalize property. This was calculated, coordinated, and criminal. Witnesses testified. The woman from church about payment offers, the coffee shop owner about bribery attempts, my co-workers about false complaints. Thomas Brennan testified about Grandpa Joe's specific fears. He knew they'd resent his granddaughter for the inheritance. He planned accordingly. Patricia called my father to the stand. Did you attempt to access your daughter's inheritance using a forged power of attorney? Silence. Your Honor? I remind the witness he's under oath. I thought I was acting in her best interest. By forging legal documents? That's fraud. Did you pay people to spread false information? Pause. We were trying to protect her reputation. By destroying it? My father had no answer. My mother cried, tried to play victim, said they were concerned parents. Concerned parents don't vandalize their daughter's property, Patricia said. Concerned parents don't coordinate smear campaigns. My brother seemed most honest, admitting they'd coordinated efforts. Believed they deserved the money. Gone too far. Why did you think you deserved it? Because we're family. Because we needed it more than she did. She was homeless at 18 because your parents threw her out. She worked multiple jobs to survive. She built a life from nothing while you had everything. And you think you needed it more? No answer. Judge Morrison called a recess. When we returned, her expression was grim. I've heard enough. The evidence is overwhelming. The petitioners engaged in fraud, harassment, defamation, and conspiracy. She looked at my parents with disgust. I'm finding in favor of the defendant on all counts. You will pay $300,000 in damages. You will pay all attorney's fees, approximately $70,000. The permanent restraining order remains. And I'm referring the case to the district attorney for possible criminal prosecution. My mother started crying loudly. My father sat frozen. My brother put his head in his hands. Furthermore, I'm invoking the clauses in Joseph Carter's will that permanently bar you from any future claims to his estate. Your actions have triggered every protective provision. You have forfeited any right to contest this will now or ever. She looked at me. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Your grandfather clearly loved you very much. I hope you can move forward in peace. We walked out to camera flashes. Patricia gave a brief statement about justice being served. I said nothing. I just walked to my car and drove home. It was over. Truly over. They'd lost everything, the money, the case, their reputation, potentially their freedom. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. That night, I sat in my living room looking at Grandpa Joe's photo. We won, I whispered. Just like you knew we would. The house was quiet, peaceful, mine. For the first time in months, I felt safe. The news spread fast. The local paper ran a front-page story. Family's coordinated harassment campaign ends in court defeat. The article detailed everything. The fraud attempt, the vandalism, the smear campaign, the guardianship petition. My parents' names were in print. Their actions exposed for everyone to see. Within days, I started hearing about the fallout. My mother's book club asked her to leave. The women who'd been her friends for 20 years suddenly had no time for her. The social circle she'd spent decades building collapsed overnight. My father lost his job. His employer cited integrity concerns after the fraud conviction was made public. At 62, he'd have trouble finding another position. My brother had to move back in with them. His girlfriend had left him after seeing the news coverage. His friends stopped returning his calls. The promising career he'd been building stalled as employers Googled his name and found the court records. The house they'd been so proud of, the one I'd been kicked out of, suddenly felt too big and too expensive. They put it up for sale, but in a small community where everyone knew what they'd done, buyers were scarce. I heard all of this through my attorney, through community gossip that filtered back to me. I didn't seek the information out. I didn't need to. The district attorney decided to pursue criminal charges for the fraud attempt. My father faced potential jail time. Their lawyer was trying to negotiate a plea deal. Meanwhile, my life was moving in the opposite direction. The company promoted me to operations manager. My project had been so successful that they wanted me leading the entire department. The salary was excellent. Not that I needed it, but it felt good to earn it. I started volunteering with the scholarship fund we'd created in Grandpa Joe's name. Meeting the students we were helping, hearing their stories of overcoming adversity, reminded me why all of this had mattered. One girl, 19, had been kicked out by her family for going to college instead of getting married. She reminded me so much of myself at 18 that I ended up mentoring her, helping her navigate the challenges I'd faced alone. My new neighborhood embraced me. People who'd read the news coverage understood what I'd been through. They weren't interested in the lies my parents had spread. They'd seen the truth in black and white. I made friends. Real friends, not just acquaintances. People who invited me to dinner parties, who knocked on my door to borrow sugar, who stopped to chat when we were both working in our yards. I planted a garden. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs. Watching things grow from seeds I'd planted felt therapeutic. 6 months after the final hearing, I ran into someone from my old neighborhood at the grocery store. She looked embarrassed. I owe you an apology, she said. I believed the things your parents said about you. I was horrible to you. I'm so sorry. Thank you for saying that. For what it's worth, no one believes them anymore. Everyone knows what they did. People feel terrible about how they treated you. I nodded. It was nice to hear, but it didn't change what I'd been through. The isolation, the harassment, the fear, those scars were still there, but they were healing. I drove past my parents' house one afternoon. Not intentionally. It was just on the way to somewhere else. I saw the "for sale" sign in the yard, saw how the lawn had gone unmowed, how the paint was peeling. The house that had once seemed so grand now just looked tired and sad. I didn't feel triumphant seeing it. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt nothing. They were strangers to me now, people I used to know, whose choices had led them to this place. My phone buzzed. A text from Joan, my financial advisor. "Your investment portfolio is up 12% this year. You're doing great." I smiled. I was doing great. Not because my parents were suffering, but because I'd built something real, something solid, something that was entirely mine. That evening, I had dinner with friends at my house. We laughed, told stories, enjoyed the meal I'd cooked with vegetables from my garden. This was my life now. This was what Grandpa Joe had wanted for me. Not wealth, not revenge, but peace, community, happiness. Later, after everyone left, I stood in my kitchen doing dishes and looked out the window at my backyard. The garden I'd planted, the house I owned, the life I'd built. I thought about my parents in their declining house, facing criminal charges, ostracized by their community, dealing with the consequences of their choices. I should have felt something: satisfaction, pity, anger. But I felt nothing. They'd lost everything trying to take what was mine. And in losing, they'd freed me completely. I dried the last dish and put it away. Tomorrow I had a meeting about expanding the scholarship fund. Next week I was starting a new project at work. Next month I was taking a vacation. First real vacation I'd ever taken. My life was full, busy, meaningful. And they were no longer part of it. That felt like the real victory. A year after everything ended, I found myself driving through my old neighborhood, not avoiding it anymore, not seeking it out, just passing through on my way home from work. I drove past the house where I'd grown up. The "for sale" sign was still there, faded and leaning. The grass was overgrown. One shutter hung crooked. The house looked abandoned, though I knew my parents and brother still lived there. I slowed down, really looking at it. I remembered being 7 in that house, wondering why my brother got the big bedroom. Being 10 with a report card no one looked at. Being 13, teaching myself to drive because no one would help. Being 18, loading boxes while my mother watched without saying goodbye. Those memories used to hurt. They used to make me feel small and unwanted. Now, looking at that house, I felt free. The house hadn't changed, but I had. I wasn't that little girl anymore, desperate for approval. I wasn't the teenager trying to prove her worth. I wasn't even the scared 27-year-old who'd sat in a lawyer's office while her family circled like vultures. I was someone else now. Someone who'd built a life they tried to destroy. Someone who'd stood up when they tried to knock me down. Someone who'd won, not by becoming like them, but by refusing to. I thought about Grandpa Joe, about his letters, his notebook, his careful planning. He'd known this day would come, when I'd drive past this house and feel nothing but peace. The real inheritance wasn't the money. It was the freedom to define my own worth. I drove on, leaving the house behind. My house was 20 minutes away, a real home, filled with light and laughter and people who cared. Tomorrow I'd meet with 3 new scholarship recipients. Kids rejected by their families but refusing to give up. I'd tell them what Grandpa Joe told me. "You're stronger than you think. You're going to be okay. Better than okay." Next week, I'd start a new work project, leading a team I'd built. People who respected me, valued my ideas, saw me as competent. Next month, I'd take that vacation, 2 weeks in Italy, solo. Because I could, because I wanted to, because my life was mine. The inheritance gave me financial security, but Grandpa Joe gave me something more valuable. He showed me I was worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth loving. My parents never learned that lesson. They'd spent my life trying to convince me I was less than, and their need to prove me worthless had destroyed them. They'd lost their reputation, their community, their careers. My father had pleaded guilty to fraud. My mother was a pariah. My brother was nearly 30, living in his childhood bedroom, the house they couldn't sell, the friends who'd abandoned them, the shame they couldn't escape. I should have felt vindicated, but I didn't. Their suffering had nothing to do with me anymore. I hadn't destroyed them. They'd destroyed themselves. I'd just refused to be destroyed along with them. I pulled into my driveway and smiled. The porch light was on. The garden was blooming. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. Safe, peaceful, mine. Inside, I made dinner, worked on a presentation, watered my plants. Normal things, beautiful things. This was the life Grandpa Joe had fought to give me. Not wealth or revenge or triumph over enemies, just a life. A good one. One where I decided my own value, built my own future, chose my own path. A life where I was enough, had always been enough, would always be enough. I looked at his photo on the wall. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. The smile in the photo seemed to say, I always knew you'd be okay. Better than okay. Extraordinary. And he was right. I turned off the lights and headed to bed. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities, unburdened by the past. My parents were no longer part of my story. They'd been a chapter I'd survived, a test I'd passed, a battle I'd won by refusing to become them. Now they were just people I used to know, people whose choices led them down a dark path while I walked toward the light. I didn't forgive them. I didn't need to. Forgiveness would imply their actions still had power over me. They didn't. I was free. And that was the best revenge of all. Living well, without them, without needing them, without even thinking about them, unless I chose to. I fell asleep in my own bed, in my own house, living my own life, finally, completely, triumphantly free.